Welcome to episode 81 of the Inventive Marketing Club. We're here every week to help you build a better marketing strategy. On this week's webinar, I'm going to look at email marketing essentials, and I'm going to run through a few case studies, some software, and some tips. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first, let's run through some uses for email marketing. First, really, and most common, I think, would be just a regular newsletter, something you're sending out on a weekly or monthly basis, or maybe even every 3 months to your clients and other people you work with, maybe an audience of people you're building up over time in the hope that one day they'll buy from you. So that's quite common. And that's something we do with a lot of clients. And I really like them if you've got a story to tell. If there's nothing happening inside your business, it can be quite tricky and a real chore to find things to say. But if you've got if you're doing lots of different things and you've got lots of interesting things to say, it's actually quite easy. And we usually bring the newsletter into other work we're doing on the blog, on social media, and sort of make a bit of a campaign of it. The other thing is sales promotions. So it could be that you've built up this newsletter list and that every now and then you want to fire a sales promotion to them. Maybe you've got an offer or you just want to focus on a particular campaign. Maybe there's a certain product you want to focus on for that month. That's where you could use sales promotions. If it's an offer, maybe you'll include a discount code in there that people can buy online or use when they ring up. And the other thing you can do with sales promotions is if you're not collecting emails for a newsletter list, is you might be collecting emails through other methods. So maybe people who've contacted you recently go onto that list. Maybe people are signing up for promotions online. So there's lots of different ways of collecting that information. Sometimes people do buy lists, and you've got to be careful with buying lists. You've got to make sure that absolutely those people want to be on a list and they know they're going to get information from third parties like you, because obviously that list will have come from somewhere else. They've signed up somewhere else and then they put on a list and they've agreed to it. So you've got to make sure that the company you're buying that data from has done their due diligence, I guess, in terms of making sure that the people have agreed. Because what you don't want is to buy the list and get into hot water because of that from the Information Commissioner's Office, where you've violated some part of the GDPR regulation. And you just want to make sure that people actually do want to receive it as well, because there's no point buying a list and then sending it out to thousands of people and getting loads of bounce backs because it's an old list and those emails are out of date, or that you get a lot of spam requests. And in some cases, the software you use to send those emails will block your account. The other thing you can do with email marketing is use it just to nudge people down the sales funnel. So let's say someone was interested in your product, which say is a car. What they could do is sign up for a brochure on that car or more details on that car. And you can then, once you've collected that email, you can use it to send them additional information to sort of satisfy all the sort of key requirements they've got on their buying checklist. Where you could use some videos, you could point them into YouTube videos, you could point them to PDF documents or other downloads, or just give them little bits of information just to help nudge them down that sales funnel. So when they're ready to buy, they've got that email in front of them that they can click on a link or see your telephone number there and to follow up. The other thing you can use it for, and I think this is underplayed, is service reminders. So often people think that once they've got a customer, that customer is theirs forever. But I would say that once you've got a customer, you need to work to keep that customer. And if you are only seeing your customer once a year, say, for example, a garage doing an MOT for a car, then that customer may not be your customer next year. So you want to make sure that you provide a service to them, really, where you will remind them about their MOT that's upcoming, and that you were the garage that did it last, and that you can, maybe give them a price, maybe a button to book them in, or, if they reply back, you'll organize booking them in that way, and trying to make that process as easy as possible, because we're all a bit lazy, really. And if, to be honest, my garage emailed me saying my MOT is due, would I like to book in an appointment to get it sorted? I would do that because it's the easiest thing. Otherwise, I've got to put it in my diary. I've got to remember about it. I've got to look for another garage. I don't want to do that. So service reminders are really good for just prompting that customer to come back to you next year. It could be that happens every 6 months as well, but you've got to think about what is the life cycle of your product, your life cycle of your customer. Is it likely they're going to go anywhere else? If they are, then you want to put a service reminder in there. You may even want to put a service reminder in, even if they have some kind of regular subscription for you, just to remind them of the benefits they're getting. It's something I've been thinking about with our club, just sending out an email on a regular basis, just reminding people about everything they can do with the club, because some people may not realize they can listen to a podcast version or go back and watch archive versions, for example. So a service reminder can be used as a way just to keep people on board. Let's have a look at some numbers. Numbers are always good in a presentation. So what does good or okay look like from an email campaign? And a lot of people ask me this, and often the case is, I don't know, really, you want to send some email campaigns and see what numbers you get. And then you want to try and improve that over time. It's a bit like anything really, bounce rate or conversion rate or anything like that using Google Analytics. It's just a case of looking at the numbers and where you are now and then trying to improve them. However, handily, MailChimp does have some of these resources through all of the sort of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of emails that get sent through their system. They've categorized a lot of those emails into different industry types, and they've produced a report, and I've got a link which we'll share in the show notes, where you can actually go and see a table of all of those different industries and then look at the average open rate, click-through rate, and unsubscribe rate. And just to give you an idea of where you should be benchmarking your own data. So what does okay look like? Well, on average for MailChimp, 21% open rate, 2.6% click rate. So that's saying that 21% of people actually open it from the number you sent. So if you sent 100, 21 people are going to open it. And then click rate is the same ratio. So if you sent out your email to 100 people, then 2.6% are on average going to click on it. Obviously, you can see that what I've provided you are just the averages there, but you can see in the graphic that depending on the industry you're in, that's going to go up or down. It'd be interesting for you to go and have a look at your numbers and see how you compare to that. Now, remember, this is just MailChimp, which is a highly and widely used email sending app, but it is only their data that they can share. So I already mentioned MailChimp, but there are lots of other email sending programs. We often use Campaign Monitor. A lot of our clients use that. And in fact, that is set up as an agency email sending application. So we can have access to multiple accounts and help run those accounts for them. And I like the simplicity of Mail Campaign Monitor. It works very well. However, it doesn't have a free tier. MailChimp has a free version, which you can go straight in. So I find a lot of people actually go for MailChimp first. MailChimp's nice, actually. I quite like how MailChimp works. I don't quite like the editor side of it, but I do like the system. It actually integrates with lots of different things. You can do landing pages on there. It does a lot of stuff. That doesn't really help you, but I'm hoping actually to do a MailChimp walkthrough where we can go through setting up a new campaign and show you all the different benefits of how it works, and I'll do that for some of the others, Campaign Monitor and MailPoet as well. The others on here, MailPoet, I've actually talked about that in a previous webinar when we're looking through our plugins. It actually links straight into WordPress and actually allows you to send emails directly on WordPress using the data you've got stored in there. So that's really nice. And actually, that's a really big benefit from a GDPR perspective. We've also got HubSpot. I mean, HubSpot is a massive marketing program in and of itself. It does a lot of things when you start combining it with your website, including collecting data from forms and then sending out sequence emails. It even has a CRM built into it, a customer relationship management system. And then we've got Active Campaign. I actually don't know much about that, but I do have a few clients who use it, so I thought I'd mention it here. There are lots of others, but these are the sort of 5 big ones that I'm aware of. So let's march through a few case studies to really give us an example of what email is and different ways it can be used, and give you some tips along the way. So the first one is Selmac. So it's one of our clients, Selmac, and they sell sort of big metalworking machinery like plasma cutters and pillar drills and that sort of stuff. And when we're going through, what we want to do is have more focused emails, really, and start, rather than having a more generic campaign email that went out with lots of various different machine types on it. These will be focused emails. Like I was mentioning before, it's kind of a newsletter, but focused on a particular product campaign. And often the blog articles and social articles would reflect that as well. And the hope is to get increased customer calls. So the first thing we need to do is just take a step back from what we're doing and put a plan together and really think about who we were trying to target, what the benefit was to them, and then what content we needed to put in to meet those the first two criteria of who it was and what benefit they wanted. Once we did that, these were the results. So on the left, we've got one of the first few campaigns we were sending, which was more of a case study based campaign. So it's quite useful, quite broad, but we found over time that by including videos in the top section of the email, that actually started to get people to not open the email more, but click on it more. Maybe tweaking the titles, we found that we could get the open rate up. And then we started actually creating these little animated GIF thumbnails and featuring people as part of those thumbnails. And we saw a massive increase, certainly in click rates. And you can see between when we first started running the campaigns, they were at 14% click rate. And then it went up to 30. Now, I must say the reporting here is slightly different from the stats you saw previously, because the reporting here is based on the percentage of clicks from people who've already opened it. So it's 30% of people who've already opened the email, rather than 30% of people who actually receive the email. Because I don't think that would be possible actually for the open rate to be 21% and then 30% actually click on it. That just wouldn't work. So what it means here is that 21% of people actually opened it. And then of those 21%, 30% then clicked on it. But what we found broadly is that, yes, definitely this was above average in terms of the rates here. But we found that including video, really beneficial in terms of click rate, including an animated version of the video where we took a couple of key segments and then stitched them together in a short 5-second loop, which was quite fast, to be honest. It really grabbed attention. That really helped click rate. And then including people in there as well. So I think the reason that works is people are always attractive to see in an email or on a website or on social media. We're attracted to faces. So that helps sort of draw people in a little bit. But also, if you're expecting to see a walkthrough or someone talking about a product, actually seeing them as part of the little GIF that we put together was more attractive as well. So people got a very quick idea of what they were going to get in the video when they clicked on it. Sometimes the video thumbnails don't really correlate so much to the video, and people then need to take a chance. And that's exactly what you don't want people to do. So basically what we did with this campaign is we took it back to basics. We understood what customers might want. And then we slowly iterated on this email sending process over, I can't remember, maybe it's 6 months, over a period of time, to actually figure out what worked well. And so we then honed down what we were doing. One of the key things we also started to introduce is this little triangle. So we would get people to understand what it was we were trying to share with them at the top and how that linked in with their need. And then we would show them that in a little image, which is where the video was, and then draw them down to a button at the bottom. So really, we were just trying to focus them in on the key action that we wanted them to take. We'd often have more content further down the page, but every now and then we'd also have that action again and just repeat it. Not too often where it was annoying, but every now and then in between the useful content, we'd repeat that action. So it's just got more chance that when people were interested, the button was there. So including a call to action, incredibly important. Linking out to a website, maybe you don't need to include all the information in the email, but you want to include some of it on other websites or your own website and drive traffic that way. Including your phone number can be quite useful. What we also started doing at the bottom is including the person who sent it. I think it was Bruce mostly. So we'd have a little photo of Bruce down there and his position. And it wasn't to make it look like he would sent it from his own personal email, but it was to make it feel like something he would send. And so he would obviously authorize the content. And sometimes we'd actually change that person depending on who was managing that particular campaign. And then we'd use this triangle to really draw people down onto the page into what we wanted them to look at. So that's quite a useful tip. And here's a little graph to show the click rate increasing over time over a number of different campaigns. And you can see, starting on the left-hand side, if we look at the blue line, we can see that started, let's say about 13%, 14%. And 14% is the same as what I quoted earlier. And it rose all the way through to 30% on the right-hand side. We can see that we did that over a number of iterations. And I think that's the key thing for anything you do in marketing, is not to expect instant and great results straight away, but to try something and then try something else and look at the difference. What worked? Did it work? Did it not work? If it did work, try and isolate what worked and then do more of that. Maybe change a little something, a title or a graphic on the next email you change, and see if that proved your theory right, that maybe having people in the image was the right thing to do. And if it did, and you still see good results, then continue along that line, having little experiments as you go. And I think that's the best way with any marketing, is do small steps, little experiments, and see what works. There are some sort of good practices that you can do to get you started, but really it does depend on your audience and your product and how they mesh together. Let's have a look at another case study. This is Whitley Jones. So Whitley Jones sell bespoke school furniture. So they do they'll do big science laboratory fit outs. They'll do big teaching walls with integrated technology like screens and projectors and all that sort of stuff. They'll also do boarding rooms. So they do lots of different custom woodwork really for schools. But schools are a tricky audience. And the reason they're a tricky audience is because the people who are actually using your product, who might have a need for it, aren't the people who are buying it, for one. There's often a disconnect between the teachers requesting things because they're quite busy, and they might want a teaching wall because it's something that's going to help them, but they're quite busy, so they never are able to really push the bursars and the people in charge of the money to deliver that for them. And then the bursars and people in charge of the money are not necessarily seeing always the benefit of what the teachers of a teaching wall that a teacher wants. So it's trying to connect those is difficult, and that's happening internally. You have very little control over that. And then from Whitley Jones's point of view, it's actually trying to reach the bursars is hard too. The people who hold the purse strings, who have the budget, it's really hard to reach them, because if you call or email, often that gets put into the bin. So it's very important to know to actually get the emails of your audience, get the right people, and address it for needs that benefit them. And often what we found is that that audience are very interested in seeing what other schools do. So that's worked out quite well for them, is actually to showcase the work they're doing for other schools, and that motivates other schools to have a look and go, oh, that's really interesting. If so-and-so's had it, maybe we could have that. And then they might talk with each other. Interesting content was something that the school seemed to like, or video often was most clicked, and ones with people in it. So we've worked on a regular basis with their newsletter, which is roughly once a month, to try and improve, just like we did with Selmac, over time, the content, so that they're getting more click-throughs and more opens. The other thing we wanted to put in place is to just warm up any leads coming through before they get the sales call, because often they can't get the sales call straight away, because Matt, Dave, and Simon are often out on the road speaking to schools, so they can't get in touch with them straight away. So we wanted to keep that connection and warm them up and maintain their interest before they could get to speak to them. So a couple of issues here. They had a tricky audience, and we've got a regular newsletter where we need to keep them engaged. And also we wanted to just keep the leads warm until they had a chance to or engaged until they had a chance to talk to them. So here's the first section really is just like with CellMac, it's a graph showing the results from the email campaigns over a period of time. Now, these are actually older campaigns on the graph. I couldn't actually get a new graph going back this far. They don't, and also in this style, they don't do a nice graphical graph anymore. So I just kept this one in here as an example. But you can see on the left-hand side that we increased the number of clicks overall by trying to match the content with what they wanted. So we'd test out new content, see if people liked it and clicked more, and then we'd do more of that. Very simple iterations. And as I said, focusing on people, so having pictures of people in there. They often liked it when there were new team members in Whitley Jones. That would get more clicks and more interest. So featuring people, featuring other schools was always interesting. And then stuff that is important like sustainability here. So talking about that. And I think now we found a good level of content people are interested in. So we haven't seen the nice growths that we used to see before with the clicks. So we've actually got to a point where we feel that we've not topped out, but we've got to a point where the clicks are quite high and they're not increasing as much as they were before. So that's great. So we've done a really good job there. However, so we moved on to this sort of warming up of the lead process. So let me just show you what I mean there. So people can contact Whitley Jones in a number of different ways. They can either call them, so we've got the telephone number throughout the site, or they can fill out a form. So the form is just a callback form, very simple, just fill in some basic details. That gets sent through to Matt, who will then put it through to the right person to call them back. We need to think about, and I'll touch on this here because it's related to emails. Often people will have a contact form and they'll just have some basic details on there, but not say why people should use it. They just say, oh, you can use our contact form. And it's just your name, your email, message. And it's like, well, what do I put into this form? What is this form going to do? Is it going to go to anyone? Is anyone going to read it? What information do you need? So there's different ways of doing RFQ forms or lead generation forms. And really, you want them simple as possible, but as specific as possible as well. So try and think, why are people contacting you? Why do you want them to fill out the form? And actually put that as a call to action on the page. So in this case, we've got contact us for a no obligation designing quote. We've also given the telephone number as an alternative. And then we've got this reasons to contact us. So these are specifically bullet pointed reasons that that is said throughout the site in other different places, but we're calling them out on this form to say, yes, you will get a guarantee. Everything we make it in Britain. It's going to be bespoke, free search survey, all that sort of stuff. So it's really important to set the scene. Why are they doing it? And what can they expect? And then once they filled out the form, they get a thank you page. So this is a good acknowledgement that the data has been received. The form has worked, and we've given an example, an expectation really of what's going to happen. So we'll get back to you in 2 business days to discuss your project. And then it's got the telephone number as well. If there's any problems, they need to get a hold of you urgently. And then we reiterate the reasons to contact. And so what we do once they filled out that form, it kicks into an email journey in Campaign Monitor. In fact, both of the other example from CellMac was running Campaign Monitor as well. So in this Campaign Monitor form, there's a script from the website that populates Campaign Monitor, populates a list in Campaign Monitor with the details that we've just collected. And then we set up a journey or an automation in Campaign Monitor, which will allow us to basically schedule a series of emails based on what list they went into. So in this one, they join a list, and then after 2 hours, you can see in the image, it's got a little bubble which says wait 2 hours. So it just waits a little bit, and then it sends them an email which is about the team. And then after 2 days, it sends them another email about the capability of Whitley Jones. And then another email 2 days later about the clients that they have with some testimonials. Because what we wanted to make sure is that people are introduced to the people they're going to be working with. So Matt, Dave, and Simon, and have a little bio. So we can see in the hello, it's nice to meet you email, we've got a friendly Matt who's smiling at us and a very brief introduction. And then we've got in the next email, the capability. So what can Whitley Jones do, including all the different areas that they work on. and their clients and so on. And basically, it's about maintaining a connection until someone can actually call you. Which hopefully is 2 days, but as they get busy, sometimes that exceeds 2 days. And the other thing that's really important is that someone has come across Whitley Jones. It could be via an ad, it could be via SEO, it could be via social, but they've discovered the website. And by filling out the form, we can get these emails into their inbox, so we can be seen in another place. And it's somewhere that they know they can go back to, because email usually is based on a timeline. So it's usually very easy to go back and say, oh, I remember that email from Whitley Jones yesterday, and they can move there and see it. Let's have a look at another case study, one of our own, for Rather Inventive. So you, as a club member, you may get a weekly email. These used to be sent out first initially in, I think it was in Basecamp. I'm trying to remember, did we actually send them in Campaign Monitor? I can't remember, but I think we sent them in Basecamp on a regular basis. And it was weekly. So after it was monthly at first when we were doing the webinars, then we moved them to weekly. So these were a lot of emails that are going out, quite time consuming. It was something we had to do and pencil in time for. In fact, Claire would manage all of that. And so she would have to put this email newsletter together. In fact, we did have also a regular email in Campaign Monitor that went out, which would have to be populated with custom text. We'd also include some other news items in there as well. It's a bit of work to do, frankly, so it's time consuming, and we wanted to automate it. So when we got our new website in place, that was one of the key things, one of the motivators actually for changing the website. So here's what the newsletter looks like. This is coming through my Hey email system, and it's very simple. It just shows, it comes through every Wednesday, I think about 10 o'clock. I can't actually remember when it comes through, but it comes through on a Wednesday, and it basically shows the last club webinar session that we recorded. Now, we record on a Friday. Claire gets everything ready and publishes early the following week. And then this goes out on Wednesday. So it just gives Claire a bit of buffer time to get all that sorted and published onto our website as a news post. And then this newsletter system picks that up to send out the email. It then also includes the upcoming schedule. So that was really important as well, to tell people about what was coming up in this month. It just looks at the current month we're in. So obviously that needs updating, and that replaces another email that Claire was sending on a monthly basis. So, originally clients were getting a lot of emails through. They were getting 2 emails, one email a week on Basecamp, another email a month on Basecamp with the upcoming schedule, and this other one from Campaign Monitor. So there's a lot of emails going on. This consolidates everything into one weekly email, same time and date. The other importance of this is actually the reminder of our webinars. For some people who might follow along quite regularly with the webinars, this is a reminder of them. They can actually keep this in their email and go back through and look at them that way and keep them there as an archive almost. A lot of people use their email like that, so it's quite useful. The other thing that was quite important for me is it reduced data transfer. We're using the MailPoet plugin to manage all of this, and I'll just show you how that works in a minute. And so rather than taking the data on a website, transferring it to Campaign Monitor, and then doing a lot of processing there, and then maybe having the two interact with each other, it's done all on the website. So MailPoet isn't quite as good as Campaign Monitor, the whole journey system, but it's pretty good. And certainly from this perspective of managing these weekly emails, it's perfect. It's exactly what we wanted, very simple and lightweight, and then we weren't moving this data around. So it reduced our sort of liability in terms of the data moving around, which was great. Oh, and also you can configure the tracking quite a lot. So I wanted to really reduce the amount of tracking. I wanted basic tracking if they clicked on a link, but I wasn't really interested in knowing exactly who did that. I just wanted to know the aggregate number of people who clicked on the links. So that was very useful too. Okay, next slide. Let's look at some of the MailPoet options, because I think it's quite interesting to dive into the different areas it can do. It can do a regular newsletter. You can set that up and schedule it. You can do a welcome email. So if someone lands on a list or signs up to a list, you can send them an email out after a certain period of time. You've got latest post notifications, which is what we use for our weekly email. You can even do re-engagement emails. These are quite interesting. So if someone hasn't, they haven't clicked on or received or clicked on an email for some period of time, you can send them a dedicated email that if they respond to, they'll stay on the list. If they don't respond to, you can actually wipe them off the list. So it's a nice way of cleaning your email automatically. It's also got WooCommerce integration as well. So if you've got a shop on there, you can get it to trigger if someone buys a product in a certain category, if it's their first purchase. There's lots of different things you can do, and you can even do abandoned shopping carts as well. So if they have got all the way to the checkout, filled out their details, but then they haven't continued any further, you could send them a gentle prod to purchase. And in some cases, that can work quite well, especially if you put a discount voucher on there. So let's go through our process. This is the template design for MailPoet. You can just go in and quickly drag in. It's like a drag and drop WYSIWYG editor, so you can lay it up how you want, which is great for email newsletters. Because we wanted to send something which was content generated from the blog, we had to use this blog post block. So we would drag in the sort of automatic latest post block, and you can set roughly how you want that to look. It doesn't have as many layout options as I would like. Certainly not as good as MailChimp or Campaign Monitor in that sense, but it's good enough. I would certainly love to tweak it. And it doesn't have any options for tweaking the sort of CSS or the style of it that much, but it provides quite a nice basic, a basic editor that works quite well. And luckily the format worked for us. So we'd add in the latest post, and then Claire is able just to go in once a month and just adapt what's the text showing in the upcoming schedule. So that works. Here's the next screen. So once you finish designing it, you go through to the final screen where you can set the frequency. And this is quite interesting with the frequency. If you've got a regular blog, you can set this to go out weekly, monthly, and immediately. So you could publish on every single post that goes out. It could send that email out. It could send that post out as an email to followers. So that's quite cool. You can set it to send to multiple lists. And of course, you can change who it gets sent from. So it's a really quite useful system to have directly on the website, certainly for smaller newsletters. The other benefit of using MailPoet, I'd say, is that they're actually a sending service as well. So you can just send everything via your WordPress site, and then you don't have any reliance on the MailPoet sort of back end. But if you do sign up to them, and I'll go through costs later, you can actually use their service Ascend. So they've got a better deliverability system. Right, let's run through some email tools and just look at the prices and pros and cons of them. So first, MailChimp. I don't really use MailChimp at all. And I'm actually going to be doing a walkthrough in hopefully a couple of weeks, as much so I can just bring myself up to date and showcase how to use it for you. But a lot of my clients do use it. And I think it's quite a nice tool. You can send for free up to 500 recipients. Or if you've got 2,500 recipients, then it's about £33 a month. And you will also need to upgrade if you want multiple users and many of the other options, like I think segmentation and automation, you need to upgrade to a paid plan. So you can't use the freebie version for all of that, but it will get you going if you just want to send a quick newsletter. So MailChimp's really good. Lots of people use it. It's got great integration. I'd say it's got generally the best integration with other services that I've found. Certainly in a lot of the plugins I use on WordPress, MailChimp is always the one that comes up. With Campaign Monitor, as I said, this is mainly for agencies to use, but there's no reason why you can't use it directly and sign up for an account. They don't have a free tier at all. So the sort of initial smallest amount you have to pay is £9 a month for 500 recipients. And then for 2,500, it's £29 a month. So they start off a bit more expensive than Campaign Monitor, the MailChimp, but it gets a bit cheaper as you go up the scale. You can also pay on a per send basis. You can even buy credits up front. So if you want to make sending even cheaper, you could buy a huge amount of credits and then you can just send with those credits. So they got a lot of flexibility in how they use it. So that's why I quite like it. It also does all the automation that MailChimp does. It's got some reasonably good reporting. I think their editor's really nice, quick way to build websites. MailChimp's editor, I haven't used quite as much. I don't quite like it as much as I do Campaign Monitor, but that may change when I go and do my walkthrough and get to know it a bit better. You can also, MailChimp and Campaign Monitor both allow this. You can make your own template. So if you like creating HTML emails, which you'd be an interesting person if you do, they're quite hard work. But if you do, it allows you a lot of flexibility, and you can then import that template straight into each of those programs, and they'll send it for you. You could even do clever things like having, if you're sending out news posts, you can have a repeatable area, which if you're sending out 1 or 3 news posts, it's going to adapt your newsletter to fit. Then we've got MailPoet. This is free for up to 1,000 recipients if you're using their email sending program or back end, really. If you've got 2,500 recipients, it's £25 a month, so a little bit cheaper again. But the reason I'm using it is not cost, because it's much less really on cost. It's more about that it is all built onto the site. So for me, it's about reducing the data surface area, so to speak. I like MailChimp, and I like that it's sort of built on. It doesn't quite have the design options that the other two have. I know I've already mentioned it, but it is worth saying that if you want more control over how your emails are sent, the other two will give you that. MailPoet isn't quite there yet. It feels a little bit clunky in the way it builds emails, but for me, that's fine. I can work around it. This is a really useful tool. It's called Mail Tester. You find it on mail-tester.com. And this is free. This is useful because you can check the deliverability of your emails that you're sending out by firing them through this tool. So what I'd recommend is you get your first campaign up and running, and then you send a test email out to an email that this will give you. So when you first load it, it gives you a nonsense email at mailtester.com. You use that as to send your preview to, and then it gives you a score, and it tells you things like, do spam engines like it? Is there a problem with some of the technical setup of your email system that's going to cause a deliverability issue? Can you improve your message in some way? Are you on any blacklist? That sort of thing. And we can see here that actually there's some issues that we can sort out. If you were to click on that -3, or the row that says -3, it will give you more details on what those issues are. So this is really useful. And this is useful not only just for deliverability of marketing emails, but your own email system. I definitely think it's worth sending a test email to this for just a normal email system on your domain. And it's going to tell you if you need to set up any other things like an SPF record or a DKIM record. If you don't know what those are, it tells you more about them in the system. And then that helps with the deliverability and not landing in people's spam box, which is great if you're sending personal sales messages. So Mail Tester is a really good tool. Here's another one that does something similar. It's called Litmus, but it costs some money. It's £85 a month. It's quite high end, but it does give you a lot more details about what works and what doesn't. It'll even give you screenshots of what it looks like in different email clients, and tells you, runs it through more spam systems so you can see how effective it is. That's £85 a month. This is actually built into Campaign Monitor. So Campaign Monitor will feed your emails via Litmus. I think it's about £5 a test. It might have gone up now, but it's probably worth it for the first few campaigns just to make sure the deliverability is going to be good. So as I said, you can do that either in Litmus as a separate purchase or via Campaign Monitor. And then finally, Giphy. Giphy is a nice little tool that you can add to your toolbox for lots of different reasons, really. But one of them could be creating little cycling videos to put into your emails, because you can't actually embed a video into an email. But what you can do is put a GIF in there with a few frames of your video, and then make that GIF clickable, which takes them to the YouTube video or your web page where they can actually view it. So Giphy not only has a selection of mad and crazy animated GIFs that people have made, but also you can make your own. Canva also does this. I know a lot of you might use Canva. I don't use Canva myself, or at least not that much. So I can't recommend their gift creator that much, but I know a lot of people use it, so it might be worth checking out if you do. But I think this Giphy is quite fun. You can upload your video to start with, and then you can add overlays and text and graphics on top to make it fun and silly as you like. Just to finish off, I'm going to run through some email marketing tips. Key thing you want to focus in your mind is, who is the email for? Why will they open it? And what will they do once they open it? So firstly, have a purpose. What is the goal and why are you doing this? You really want to make sure that you are sending these emails for a reason. Don't just think, I'm going to do an email marketing campaign because that's what everyone else does, and then just send out spam. You want to make sure it's useful and focused. Streamline your list. Certainly if you've bought it, sending your list will help you streamline it. It will help remove the undeliverables, but try and remove the dud ones. Segment it. So if you're sending out a particular campaign on a certain product, then maybe not everyone on your list needs to know about that product. Maybe they already have that product, so you don't want to send that email again. So segment the list up, break them up into groups, so you send it only to the people who want it. Both Campaign Monitor and MailChimp support that segmentation, and you can do it on lots of different in lots of different ways. Often you can put a column in your data with tags in there, or you could, with the products, you could do it on location, you could do it on their status. There's lots of different ways you can segment. Know your audience. You want to create an email they are going to open. I know that's silly, but you want them to open it, and that you need to create it in a way that they will want to open it because they want to get at what's inside. So you've got to think about that. Try and make it helpful to them, topical and relevant for them, or product focused for a product they've already got. So if they're buying a product, and actually I get these from Basecamp, they will send you an email, which I've signed up to, and it tells you about the new features because I'm interested in the new features of that software, and so I want to be told about it. So that's relevant for me. Make it about them. Super important. If you don't do that, they're not going to open it. They'll just ignore it. It's just spam. Personalize it if you can. Put their name, include their name in the subject line and maybe in the first couple of lines of the email. It's more likely to get their attention. It's going to help you get a bit more visibility of your email, and it'll help them. It'll increase those open rates because they will feel it's more for them. What I would say is, don't use this to trick people though. So use an email if you've captured that email. You captured their name, so use it correctly, and don't trick people to opening a spam email just by using their name. I think you should use their name when they have signed up to something and they want it. Create a remarkable subject line. Ask a question. Create some intrigue. Challenge people. Sometimes you can you can make a statement that opposes what your audience think and enrage them into opening it. I don't like that approach, but it can work. If it's a regular email, maybe like a newsletter, and the people have signed up to this and they want it, you don't need to be, you don't need to encourage them to open it because they already want to. So maybe you actually want to say what's in the email, so when they can use that as a reference in their email system to find it later, or maybe so they know they can click on it because they've actually been waiting to know more about that information. Use video. We've mentioned how useful video can be in terms of encouraging people to click. Definitely try and include video in your email, either with a single frame preview or ideally an animated GIF, and definitely include a person if you can, if they're part of the video. Don't include a person unless it's relevant, but it definitely gets more clicks. Ask for action. Remember that little triangle funnel. So try and have the action button or link high up in the email, and try and think of a triangle. You state something that's meaningful to your audience and then lead them down to the action at the bottom. So definitely include that. Link out to your website, or include a phone number if you can't link anywhere, but draw people in. Build trust. So certainly for a newsletter, you want to create something that is unmissable and happens consistently, certainly in the tone that you write it and in the frequency. So people will miss it and they expect it. Make it clear why you're contacting them, certainly as well. Down the bottom of an email, it's always worth saying how they got onto this list, and having a method for people to unsubscribe, just a simple unsubscribe link. In fact, most bulk sending systems like Campaign Monitor and MailChimp will insist that you have an unsubscribe link. And then finally, run experiments. Just try out different things to see what works and then start honing in on what works until you can improve those open and click rates. Just before I leave you, I'll give you some further reading. There's a couple of links here. One is an interview with Michelle on developing sold out marketing funnels. It's quite old, but I'd say old, it's a couple of years old now, but I think the content's very good. And it's about developing a marketing system which includes email as part of it, a sequence of emails that Michelle uses to encourage people to come on her webinar. So that's quite interesting to listen to. We've also got a direct marketing checklist, how to optimize marketing emails for email. And if you want to know a little bit more about MailPoet, have a look at IMC71 top WordPress plugins and scroll through until you find me talking about MailPoet, because I go into a bit more depth about how it works, and it's a bit more of a walkthrough. So that's the end of this. Let me turn that off and just ask Claire, what's happening next week?
So next week, we're running the Open Club marketing and website review. We have 2 guests confirmed. So this is a fantastic opportunity for people to let us have a sort of a sneak peek into their website and to give them some invaluable feedback and advice on their SEO and content ideas and such.
Yeah, it keeps me keen as well. If they can come up with questions that test me, that's always interesting. Cool. Thanks, Claire. Well, we're here every Friday from 10 a.m. We cover everything in marketing, strategy, social, SEO, video, and generally, and also email. If you've got something exciting to share, email support@ratherinventive.com, particularly if you want to come on because you've got something you want to talk about. Don't forget, you can catch up with all the previous webinars on ratherinventive.com/membership and look out for that email that comes through every week. And if you're not getting it and you want it, email us and we'll make sure you're resubscribed. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next week. Bye for now.